It's like a pretty extraordinary journey, and the fact that most of it is based on actual real events that Greg experienced is, just all the more exciting, I guess.
So congratulations, it's finally here! And you're back in Toronto, which you've said before how much you love.
This is my town.
This is your town. Why do you love Toronto?
I spent cumulatively over 2 years of my life here, so whatever that is. I'm not very good at doing math on the spot, but a good percentage of my life. And I just like the city. I like Canadians. Particularly, I like the film savvy, culture. It's a very sophisticated film and television audience here, because of TIFF. And, so it's always just a delight to come and roll something out. I find I have the most interesting, engaging, and kind experience doing press in Toronto than anywhere else in the world.
That's so amazing to hear. You're going to make me tear up here. I love hearing you love Toronto.
This is your town, born and raised?
A little bit, but it's where I've spent most of my life as well. And in your 2 years in Toronto, whereabouts were you living? Where did you stay?
I lived on at the Soho Grand down on Blue Jays Way. I lived there 2 times. I did 2 movies back to back with Guillermo. I've also worked twice in Montreal, so, maybe I'll move to Canada. It's so civilized. It's so damn civilized here. Don't you find that?
We're incredibly civilized. We'd love to have you, Charlie. Please, we'll pay your rent. Well, I know, Canadians, Justin Trudeau, talk about this.
Right. No, I'll pay my own rent.
Would you ever actually consider moving to Toronto?
I wonder. I'm very, very happy and I feel really grateful to have spent 25 years in Southern California. But I do wonder, sort of later on in life, if I want to go somewhere a little more green and lush and less crazy. So I do consider Canada sometimes.
Well, we love to hear it. And last night I heard that you guys took your castmates out. You went out for a little night in the town, a little jaunt in Toronto. I'd love to hear about where'd you guys go? What'd you do?
Well, we started off, I forget what it's called, but that little fountain with the dogs that are looking up at the Golden
Berczy
Bowl.
Park.
Yeah, Berczy Park. Because we went there because I wanted to go to Fresh right there. And then we walked down to the lake. We walked all the way down the lake pretty far, doubled back, cut through to Spadina, up to Kensington Market, back round, and ended at Khao San Road. Because no trip to Toronto is complete without some Thai food from Khao San Road.
Oh, amazing. We love the Thai shout out. Are there any other Toronto restaurants that you really dig when you're in the city?
I was excited to go to Cafe Crepe. We arrived really late. We had a true planes, trains, and automobiles type of experience getting to Toronto. It took 13 hours to get from LA to Toronto, which usually takes 7. And we got here and everything was closed. But Cafe Crepe was always that institution was open till 3 or 4 in the morning. So I reminded myself on Google and we were going to go and get a delicious crepe and a glass of wine. And it was permanently closed, another victim of COVID. So devastating. I was devastated about that.
Oh, that one broke my heart too. I feel you there. And I got to talk to you about it because you spent some time with the actual author of this book. I heard you say that people thought you guys were father and son. What was the best nugget of wisdom he gave you during your guys' time together?
I don't know if it was a nugget of wisdom, but he is so singularly in control of who he wants to be and how he spends his time. He just has, I think he's just sort of been through a lot of journeys, decided what's important to him in his life, decided what's not, and eradicated everything that's not. And he just lives, he's the most present person I've ever met, and he's the most purely committed to, his creative, pursuits. So just it was just a demonstration, I suppose, of a life well lived after many, many years of maybe a life not well lived that allowed him to arrive at that place, But I felt very inspired being around him.
Well, I love to hear that. And, we're bringing it back. What drew you to this project in the first place? This has been years and years in the making and a passion project for you.
Yeah, it's really just how magnificent the book is. My first experience of reading the book just transported me to a place I didn't know, sort of helped me explore a lot of questions in my life that I was not dark or troubling questions, but just generally in a transitional period of reaching sort of my mid-30s, approaching 40, and just asking some big questions about life and meaning and God. And he was so he had such a fascinating and well thought out take on all of those questions that he laces through the book. And then it's just this amazing character that goes on this journey over 10 years where he's fairly neutral to begin with, and then, is exposed to, criminality on a grand scale, is exposed to God, he falls in love, he makes friends, he makes enemies, he ends up in Afghanistan, posing as a CIA agent. I mean, it's like a pretty extraordinary journey, and the fact that most of it is based on actual real events that Greg experienced is, just all the more exciting, I guess.
Incredibly magical in every facet of life for everybody that's looking, whether you want drama, that romance, or just kind of that grit of searching for yourself. And you can definitely see on the screen, I'm absolutely loving the show. You're doing an incredible job. All of you guys are. And you guys have such a lovely group here. So I've chatted with a couple people, and people have riddled me with hilarious tales, from you making silly faces jumping on a motorbike to some nights of long bottles, 15 hours of drinking, I've heard.
One night. Yeah, I have not been hungover since that night, let me tell you. That might be my last hangover. We drank for 15 hours straight, and then I picked him up and carried him to bed, and then somehow found my own bed. But it was a rough day the next day, or the rough 2 days following that.
But the start of a beautiful bromance.
Start of a beautiful romance, exactly.
Gotta love it. I'd love to know, what is your favorite memory, that one that you're gonna keep going back to from you and everybody on set?
The first season was very difficult. I would say that the greatest memory of season 1 is the first scene that Shubham and I did together, because the love story at the center of this is between Prabhu and Lynn. And we'd never had the opportunity to meet because of COVID and obstacles around production, so we hadn't had the opportunity to meet. So it was a huge question mark whether the central dynamic of the show was going to work or not. And I could tell, within the first 3 seconds of the camera rolling, of us being in that space together, that we were sort of going to fall in love on screen and support each other and create something that felt, at the very least, sincere, because we were both feeling it. So that was a really wonderful, wonderful day on set.
Beautifully said, and totally translates on screen. Congratulations. Thank you for being so generous with your time today, and enjoy, the premiere of this episode tonight, and all your fans in Toronto here for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our Narcity channel to see more great content.